how multiple marriage is destroying you. Now you gotta always understand and understand. Your free will is the freedom for you to go ahead and will things into your world. And there's nothing really wrong with doing that. But there's also consequences, and there's also percentage levels that you should basically be aware of when you are participating in these situations and circumstances. See, it's one thing to put yourself into a situation of mixing and mingling your waters and your tides with another individual. But when you're doing it with multiple individuals, it's put you into a situation of karma. Feel me? Because 10 times out of 10, by you putting yourself into that situation, some people may not even give a fuck, but it's still going to be some form of karma going on. Feel me? Because it's still going to create a big ass cloud. Feel me? A cloud that's going to basically be hovering over you, and a cloud that's going to either kind of put you into the perspective of worrying about certain things or attracting certain ideas or attracting certain feelings and emotions. Because remember, when you are actually having sex with somebody, you are creating heavy ass tides and heavy ass energies. So once these things start to crystallize, you start to create a whole lot of elements within that particle. Now, when you put yourself into that situation, you're carrying a whole lot of load with you. You're carrying loads on you by default. Now, these loads shouldn't have to even be heavy. But remember, this is the world you picked and chose to basically dive into. So, now it gets to this perspective right here. Now, whatever you doing has to have an intent and it has to have a purpose behind it. Now, everybody get caught up in certain situations and everybody get caught up in certain things that they basically are evolving themselves into. But you should already know by default, you have desires that you basically want to chase, and you have desires that you want to always get out. But certain desires ain't really good desires. Certain desires may seem very much of a ice cream truck in the beginning. Everybody want to get the cream. Everybody want to get the cone. Now the cream is gonna be the wop. The cone is gonna be the cone that you layer your sloan in. Now, you don't want to always put yourself into situations of basically going at buying from that ice cream truck, because not all ice cream trucks are gonna basically bring you good results. You can also experience a result that you don't want to experience. You may basically buy the wrong shit. Yeah, buy the wrong desire or buy the wrong situation that you basically put yourself into. So you want to always be aware of things that you basically get yourself tied into. Because now when we're talking about ties, this is also going to create some form of soul ties that you're going to basically be creating and, of course, carrying out throughout your whole life. Through this life, a next life, and life on, coming and going. Now, you gotta also remember that you're getting your hands dirty, and you're getting blood on your hands by default by you participating in the situation of dealing with somebody else, knowing you're already dealing with somebody in the beginning. By default, that's gonna put blood on your hands. You ask how it's gonna be being put blood on your hands. This is the reason why, because you made a commitment to marry something, and when you marrying something, you gotta stay committed. You gotta do it on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you're not committing yourself to this person and that person at the same goddamn time, it's going to create a crackage. So that means the other individual is not going to be satisfied. And also, the other individual is not going to be aware of that you are basically participating with other individuals. So it's going to basically create some form of even more hardship, more pain, and more agony in this situation if the person was to find out. Now, you got to also be aware of the risks that can be taken into these situations. Things get broken, people could die, people get killed, people get harmed in these situations when we're talking about these experiences and things that matter. Because you gotta also be aware of the titles that you are creating in your life on a day-to-day basis. You gotta also be aware of the titles and shit. Because if you're not aware of the titles, and if you're not seeing what's going on, you're gonna be placed into a situation where things is gonna kind of like eradicate and put you like into a perspective where it can like kind of like throw you off at times too. So you don't want to also you don't really want to put yourself into a situation where you kind of like she kind of threw me off. You don't want to put yourself into a chaotic situation. So upfront and personal, it's all about being real, about people, places, and things that you get into relationships with, get into ties with, and to actually whoever you're relating with too on a day-to-day basis. For me, you always want to be 100. You always want to be real with yourself and the person that you're relating with, because at the end of the day, when you mix two energies together, that's going to create some form of energy regardless. Now, the energy could be good energy, the energy could be bad energy. Now, if you're mixing bad energies with these situations that play out into the magnitude, you're going to create a big-ass roller coaster, a big-ass line of events that's going to bring unexpectedness that can throw you off, that's going to tarnish you, destroy you, and of course, get your ass killed. It's always very highly important to make sure you're keeping it real and 100 with a person. This way you won't be in the situation of your time being wasted, the other person's time being wasted, and so on and so forth. Feel me? You always want to keep things real. You always want to be real, because when you keep things real, you'll be considered a real individual. Now, if you always keep it secret, hiding things and doing things behind closed doors, everything gonna come out into the light. Feel me? Because the heavier protection that you put into that energy by doing shit behind closed doors, it got no choice by default to come out into the opening. So, once it come out into the opening and get exposed, you gotta respond to these situations. You gotta have answers to why you did this, why you did that. Feel me? Nothing is gonna basically be swept. Everything is gonna be swept underneath the rug until somebody find the dust underneath the rug, underneath the goddamn carpet. So you always want to make sure you're real and make sure you basically put things out up front and personal. You never want to put yourself or place yourself into a situation of getting carried away or getting put into that slaughter energy. You want to always make sure. And when you're dealing with somebody or dealing with a person or dealing with a situation, you gotta stay committed. And that word marriage is very highly powerful, fam. You also want to make sure that when you're marrying something, you want to stay loyal to it. Always remember that. Always remember that. And that's how people, places, and things get themselves eradicated, get themselves hurt, get themselves killed, get caught up in soul ties. That's how people are emotionally damaged, mentally damaged and shit. It can really kind of like wear and tear on people's souls and shit. So you never want to basically place yourself into a situation of playing around like that, for me. These things happen every day. But it's always good to be aware of these things. It's always good to know the limits on your desires. And it's always good to know that later down the line, you want to always make sure that you are not the individual that's violating certain situations that can kind of like, come back and haunt your ass. I mean, because, that's a big ass karma ball right there. And that's shit that you don't want to basically deal with. You want to make sure these things is not coming into your experiences, for me, because these can create a whole lot of illusions, and it can create a whole lot of energies where people get themselves hurt, killed, all kind of criticalness. So you want to always make sure loyalty, staying strong, staying firm, no matter what the situation is, for me. Even if you're using this person for something, you also want to be real with that person too. This way, it won't be situations where I thought we was this, I thought we was a team, yada yada, for me. This is just to make sure that your ass is safe. For me, you never know who you're dealing with. You never know how people want to get back. You never know what spirits is in people's bodies and all kind of shit. For me, it's like a line of events. You also want to make sure that you're aware of these things and aware of what you're getting yourself into when you're diving into these energies or diving into these big ass portals. Feel me? And 10 times out of 10, people get possessed by their desires. People don't control their desires. People basically are out here relating and, of course, committing in relationships where there's no long-term effects. There's no long-term stance. People are just wasting people's time during the time. People are just out here just doing weird shit, for me. Yes, like relationships, how they were previously with teamwork made a dream work. There's no balance. Everything is kind of like chaotic, unscaled, feel me? Things ain't being measured right. Things just kind of like, a little messy out here. So, yeah, if you do got somebody solid, that's very wonderful. You also want to make sure you stay with somebody solid that you can build with, feel me? Because pretty much everything will basically fall in your lap versus someone that's in a chaotic relationship. Someone that's kind of like using relationships just because it's a trending topic. They don't got no purpose, feel me? They just washed up. They're not working together. They're not building shit. They ain't got no foundation, no empire. They just shitting on their ass, being lazy, not doing shit, feel me? They just caught up into some circumstantial situation. You never want to be that person, feel me? And if you are that person, you want to make sure you save your relationship, feel me? It's it's not hard to get somebody. But if you most importantly don't love yourself, that's going to fuck shit up for you and the other person. So always love yourself before you get into a committed relationship and know that.